Hello and welcome to the Unusual Stories podcast. My name is Wojciech Salski and I'll be your host for today, as per usual. And before we start, I guess it's important to note if you feel like this podcast is something that is worth listening to and would like to share it with your friend or give me a like or, subscribe, follow, or in any other way support the podcast, please do. It helps loads and I'm making a conscious effort not to put any advertising in and out just to make it grow organically because I believe it to be a valuable experience for me and for you. So it goes a long way, if you can share it on your social media or just tell a friend to check it out. Other than that, as you may know, this is the last episode of our 10th season, which is about the 10 books. This time, which is actually the 20th book today of this year that I will be reviewing. And on top of that, as we're nearing the end of the year, I'm going to give you a few ideas about the New Year's resolutions and maybe an invitation to reflect on some of the things just before the end of the year. So you can sort of take it forward and make the most of the year that is coming up and look back at your time this year, I think. And I believe that to be very important and maybe sometimes a little bit undervalued, so oversighted, overlooked. So we'll get back to that as well at the very end of the episode. For today, I've prepared for you a book that I've actually read at the beginning of this year, and I've only just realized that I haven't read and it sort of fits perfectly into our story, especially that it's like sort of the last book of the season, and the first book of the book reviews was a book very similar in terms of the taste and ideas, which was the Letting Go book by David Hawkins. So this time round, I would like to present to you the Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. And before maybe I'll jump into the three main points of the book that I found very powerful and I'd like to share with you. I just wanted to let you know this is the kind of book very similar, I would say, to the Letting Go or let's see, maybe to Meditations that offers us an opportunity, a space to reflect on our acceptance of life and ourselves, and reflect on our perspective, the way that we interact with daily ordeal of life. And I guess that's a very important point to make, especially as we're nearing the end of the year, because I find that moment now that we're coming closer to Christmas and some time with our family and friends, that we're going to be sort of looking back at the year, to look back consciously and observe what happened, take some lessons from what happened, maybe let go of some things that did not happen or happened not exactly how we expected them to, and overall kind of wrap up the year and put a proper dot at the end of the chapter before we turn the page. So let's start, I guess. I'm really happy to be sharing this book, actually, and it reminds me of a lot of things that I've been trying to practice throughout the year. So I might actually, after this whole episode is done, I might actually review the book again. Fun fact, I'm reading the Letting Go book for the fourth time right now. I'm halfway there. And that's just for the benefit of my own wrap-up of the year. I thought that it's a good moment to sort of anchor myself with the book that did so much for me. And maybe if I do have any spare time at the end of the year, after I'm done with, at the end of this month even, after I'm done with the Letting Go book, I will probably go back to the Untethered Soul. So I encourage you to do the same. Anyhow, let's start. So one of the first points that I would like to raise is something maybe quite self-explanatory, something that probably you've heard from me and from other like-minded people a bunch of times already. The idea that your thoughts don't define you. That's one of the main points that Mr. Singer puts across in his book, and he invites us to observe this inner chatter that goes on all the time. I doubt that it's any different for you than it is for me, in terms of constantly being sort of experiencing this inner dialogue, maybe inner conflict at times, of the inner critic, the inner encourager, the inner hero, and the inner not so much of a hero, battling it out in our mind, trying to figure out what to do, when to do it, how to do it, with whom, why, and so on. There seems to be the stream of consciousness just at all times, right? That's why we call it a stream of consciousness. It reminds me of a stream of a river, or some kind of a noisy channel on a TV, that you can only switch channels, but you cannot really turn the TV off. And in this part, Mr. Singer invites us to, yet again, very similarly to the majority of other spiritual practices and invitations thereof, to observe this inner chatter and see it for itself as just that, an inner chatter, and try not to judge it, try to become at peace with the fact that it's there, and that it will be there nevertheless, for however much and however strong you would struggle against it, to sort of drown it out. On this note, I feel like we do a lot in life to try and drown out the noise, and maybe you are one of those people that either try to drown out the noise of your inner thoughts by over excessive drinking or drug taking. Maybe you're constantly on your phone. Maybe you're constantly listening to music, to podcasts. I know I do. That's actually the way that I of course, I'm trying to practice meditation and be more mindful about myself, but I do catch myself regularly on listening to stuff a lot as a way of sort of, in my mind, it's expressed as a need to learn more and be more and do more, but I think it's a coping mechanism with the sort of silence that wouldn't be so silent, right? Because there would be a lot of thoughts coming in and out, and it's my way of dealing with it. So I think it's very valuable to notice those kind of dynamics, and to have the humility and courage to recognize when those are just that. And this is where the main point of this chapter, and I think one of the main points of the book comes in, which is those thoughts do not define you. And I would take it even further and say nothing really defines you other than your actions, in terms of, who would you like to become, what kind of a person you'd like to be, whether you're a good or bad person. It seems that for the most part, we are at least scared of, and probably are for the most part defined by, unconsciously most of the time, by the way we think about ourselves and by the way we think others think about us, right? And it's a great trap, and it's like a web of just thoughts and lies, I think, and expectations. Because in my personal opinion, nothing really defines you but your actions, and maybe your words, but words are more elusive than actions, right? And there is a reason why people say actions speak louder than words. So, whatever you believe in that regard, the invitation here is just to notice that the thoughts that you have, whether the good thoughts or the bad thoughts, the thoughts about the fear, the thoughts about the pleasure, the thoughts about the hopes and dreams and the limitations and scares, all of that is just that. Those are thoughts. And ultimately, you do not make them real unless you give them the power to be so. And this is the powerful part about being more mindful about yourself, right? Whenever you feel down and you try to navigate yourself out of that rut, if you recognize your thoughts as just that, thoughts, it's definitely much easier to let them go than if you give them power, because you're already accepting that they are a part of you and you're a part of them. And ultimately, you know, if you've observed your thoughts, even for just the amount of time I've been speaking so far on this episode, there are tons of them, and there will be tons of them at all times. So it's kind of impossible to be selective efficiently, which is why Mr. Singer invites us to just let them go. And of course, that does not mean you should completely abandon feeling happy about things. Rather, you should allow them, the thoughts, to be there while you enjoy the passing of time and the experience of life. So yeah, do not let your thoughts about you define you, or the thoughts of others that you think they think define you. Secondly, an interesting point that really greatly fits into our previous episodes on reflecting on death is the idea that, you know, I think I've already mentioned this a couple of times. There is this idea that meditation is a preparation for death. And if you've listened to the episode about the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, or if you've listened to the episode about the letting go, especially in Buddhist practice and in sort of the Tibetan Buddhism practice, there is a huge emphasis placed on remembering death, sort of memento mori, the way that we in Christian word recognize it, maybe not necessarily the same, but it definitely hits the similar tones. And Mr. Singer, yet again in his book, underlines the importance on reflecting on death and its inevitability. Sorry, say that 6 times quick. And as I've mentioned before in Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, or when I referred to the speech by Steve Jobs, I feel that thinking about death, not necessarily in the gloomy, morbid way of accepting again and again, reminding yourself, oh, everything will pass, we're all gonna die, we're doomed. Not in this at all. It's much more profound in a way that you accept that you will die, and then by recognizing that, you give yourself a space to appreciate more the fact that you're alive. And it's easier said than done, don't get me wrong. I think the similar scenario is in the meantime, when we're not ill, we don't really think how grateful we could be for the fact that we're healthy, right? It's only when you lose health, then you start appreciating how important it was, because it sort of rises up to the surface. It's this idea that if I go on the day-to-day basis being healthy, I don't notice that I'm healthy because it's my natural state. So I sort of am more entwined with other things that are, you know, right now on my mind, trying to deal with life. But the moment you fall prey to disease of any kind, even if it's just a small flu, you will find that you suddenly cannot focus on anything else other than the fact that you're ill. It's the sort of like an overshadowing of perception almost. I know that I'm very miserable when I'm ill, to the point that I really feel quite miserable doing anything else because I'm constantly reminded by my state that I'm ill. And I think this is very similar in terms of this idea of death. Of course, death is not something that you will probably experience for quite a while from now. And I wish for you and your family and your loved ones to, to not have to experience it for long. But one way or another, at some point, the nature of life is we are all going to die. And by observing that once in a while, on reflecting on that, and maybe asking yourself these questions like, if I were to die tomorrow, would I do today what I wanted to do today? Would I do something different today? Would I maybe say something different to a person? And would I just be different? I feel like those are very profound and impactful questions that you may ask. And I feel like this is what Mr. Singer points out in the book. It's a reminder to notice just how grateful you can be for the fact what you have, for the privilege of living, for the privilege of living in a society that has running water, for the privilege of being healthy, for the amazing privilege of being able to listen to this random podcast. The fact that you're listening to me means that you're one of the very few in terms of the grandiose of the world, that can both listen online to a podcast in English and at the same time have means to do so on their phones or laptops. And many of those things don't often come up for us, right? We go through life easily distracted by our things, easily drawn to problems that we're trying to solve, whereas there are so many things to be grateful about and grateful for. And maybe this actually is an invitation to think what is most important for you in terms of the inevitable death. What is most important for you for the future? What would you do next week if you knew it's your last week? What would you do next month if you knew it's your last month? And so on. And of course, this is not to say we should fall into hedonism and abandon everything and just assume that I'm going to die tomorrow, so today I'm going to do anything that just brings me pleasure. It's not really a sustainable approach, right? We need to be realistic, and we gotta take care of ourselves in the future as well. You're sort of responsible for yourself today, but also yourself tomorrow and yourself in 10 years if you're planning to be there. And so this is not to abandon fully any responsibility whatsoever, rather to the contrary, to have the ability to appreciate more what you have and what you do, and also verify every now and then whether what you want to do and you are doing is worthwhile. Because I guess I feel that's where the meaning of life comes into place. So, just an invitation here and a reminder that there is nothing to fear but fear itself, which is a quote by Winston Churchill. And maybe as a reminder about death, it's like there is nothing to fear about death, but fearing death itself, because ultimately we will die. But through the ability to recognize how grateful we could be and how lucky we are to be alive, how unlikely it is to be alive in the first place, and that's a whole new episode worth of a topic, maybe you'll live your life a bit better, whatever that means for you, right? Whatever that means for you, your family, your loved ones, and so on. And this actually brings me really, really smoothly to our third point, and actually also the New Year's idea. So Mr. Singer invites us to find balance, and this applies to anything: work, life, relationships, plans for the future, reminiscing about the past, thinking about what you're going to do right now, and the way you perceive right now, and the way you feel right now. And I think over the past, however many years, I'm 26, right? Almost 27. So I'm not the wisest, let's say, and I definitely am missing loads of experience and wisdom, um, to which I'm striving for into the future, right? But what I found again and again, especially when talking with people about different topics and discussing different themes, whether it was politics, religion, health, any sort of studies, relationships, the way to act with yourself, habit tracking, plans. Again and again, I catch myself saying this sort of statement that maybe the truth and the right path is somewhere in the middle. Maybe the essence of it is in the balance. Maybe we should go with the middle way. And there is this koan, right, about the middle way from Buddhism, which says something between the lines of the string should not be too tight or too loose on an instrument for it to be played well. And similarly, one's attitude to life should not be too rigid and too loose to life to live well. And I feel like this is maybe both for you and for me an invitation to consider this balance for yourself, for the future, especially as you look back about your year and as you look forward into the 2024 and so forth. That maybe it is all about finding the middle ground. Maybe it's not about being too conservative, but it's not also about being too liberal. Maybe it's not about being too hedonistic, but it's also not about being so strict with yourself that you don't do anything fun. Maybe it's not about training 7 days a week for 6 hours, but it's also not about training once a month. Maybe the truth and the way to salvation, whatever that means to you in terms of both spiritual and just practical, maybe the way to success is somewhere in the middle, And for us, as we go down those paths of our life, it seems to me that the middle might be different. For one person, 5-day-a-week training is the middle, whereas for another person, 2-day-in-a-week training will be the middle. Maybe for someone, both of those options will be absurdly low, and they will want to do those 7 days, 6 hours a day training, and that will be their middle. I don't know. But the idea here that I'm trying to maybe put across is that at the end of the day, finding the balance with your own life and finding a balance in your relationships, in your work-life balance, in the way you deal with yourself and others might just be the most important invitation and inspiration for your next year. Because it does seem to me, as I go through my own life and sometimes get too tight or sometimes get too loose, that maybe if I were more balanced, things would fall into place a bit more easily, and I would stumble less and I would hurt less. And that's definitely something that I would like to take for my next year as an intention. So this brings me to the New Year's resolutions. And before I share with you a few great quotes that I've just written down for myself from Mr. Singer's book, I just wanted to give you this invitation, and I'll probably do another episode anyway before the New Year's time, just sort of to wrap up the year, like a bonus monologue episode. But if you've listened to the episode about the New Year resolutions last year, that's great. If you've not, maybe have a little revision of it. or I just invite you to check it out. I remember I've had a very, very fun episode, and it helped me immensely as well to deal with that. But what I would like to invite you to consider is that oftentimes we give ourselves New Year's resolutions, and it sounds great to start with, but it always takes a certain toll on our psychology. And oftentimes people drop out of their New Year resolutions by the second or third month, sometimes even second and third week. And this is not to say and to make you feel bad about yourself. I have no doubt that you had that experience before. I know I had. With different things, some things are easier for me to pick up and carry on. Some habits I've been trying to develop in myself for years, and they seem to struggle to stick on. So I guess, it's all a process. It's normal. But I would invite you to take it and to take it with small steps in mind. Literally tiny steps. There is so much research done about the consecutiveness and sort of the consistency as a major factor in developing a habit and actually in changing over time whatever you want to change. It's the same idea as the compound interest, which by Einstein was pointed out as the most amazing force in the universe, right? Law or force in the universe. It's this idea of small steps, incremental change, and compound of effect. And I would invite you to do just that. If you want to get healthier, if you want to become, I don't know, stronger, better at something, if you want to pick up a new habit, if you want to get rid of one, start small, really small. I'm talking, for example, one of my loved ones is trying to read more and or stretch more as well. And they've been struggling sort of to keep up the habit. It's 2 days in and then 5 days out. And at the moment, they are trying to do it like 3 minutes a day of stretching, or 2 pages of the book a day. It can be even a 1 word a day, 1 stretch a day, whatever it is. The most important part is to just keep it up over time. It's this consistency that will strengthen your habit and that will allow you to actually achieve your goals. And they might not be so amazingly quick and so amazingly wonderful straight off the bat. You'll probably go through some struggle at some point, but they will be much easier to maintain and actually do and go through with them. And this is what Mr. Singer points out in this idea of finding a balance, that New Year resolutions are often very well over the top, and we give ourselves such a strict and big threshold of success and failure, then we just fail miserably very quickly. Instead, if you give yourself a goal of, I don't know, taking a walk for 10 minutes a day for the next 3 months, as silly as that may sound to you to start with, you will see that's not going to be that easy anyway, and it will be an immense powerful thing to do, because after 3 months of a consecutive at least 70% success rate, because we're not perfect, so we'll probably skip 1 or 2 days every now and then, you'll feel so much more empowered and so much more inspired and motivated to do more, that you will achieve your goals faster than if you were to buy a gym ticket and start with 7 days a week, 1 hour workout regime and some crazy diet. So the invitation here is to just find the balance, right? And maybe because you're starting something, take that balance down. Start small rather than big. Because if you start small, then you will have much less likelihood of missing your training, or of not doing those morning pages, or skipping your meditation. At the moment, I'm doing 5 minutes meditations in the morning because I used to do them for much longer last year, but then I stopped. And coming back to 15, 20 minutes straight off the bat was just too difficult. So I'm back to 5 minutes. It's a humbling experience. It's not that, fun. But I think over time it works. At this point, I'm doing it regularly for a week. In a few weeks' time, I will probably take it up a notch. And that's the whole idea. Start small and grow. And the compound effect will take toll, and you'll achieve your goals. So before I finish, I just wanted to read for you 3 very powerful quotes that I've noted for myself before from the book. And these are just maybe to inspire you. So have a little think about them, and I hope that they will inspire you as much as they did to me. When a problem is disturbing you, don't ask, what should I do about it? Ask, what part of me is disturbed by this? True personal growth is about transcending the part of you that is not True personal growth is about transcending the part of you that is not okay and needs protection. So I guess overcoming that inner fear, right? The fearful self, the small self. And your inner growth is completely dependent upon the realization that the only way to find peace and contentment is to stop thinking about yourself. And that one actually for me was the most unusual one, let's say, especially that, we think about ourselves 24/7, unless you're already in a lot of practice about mindfulness and maybe letting go. You're likely to be thinking about your life, your image, your well-being 24/7, and this is a powerful invitation, right, to not think about yourself, to become selfless. So yeah, I guess at this point I'm gonna let you off the hook. As you remember, the 2 things that I would like you to consider, as well as reading the book, of course, because it's definitely worth your read. Maybe the first book of the 2024 for you, maybe a great present idea for a friend or a loved one for Christmas, is to find the balance, especially when it comes to New Year resolutions, but also in terms of your everyday life, and to reflect on your previous year, on 2023, and notice also on top of that reflection list, notice how many things and how much stuff you can be grateful for, and you're privileged to have, be, and do in life, just as a way of maybe bowing for all of those that don't, because I feel that also gratitude has a way of lifting up the vibration of the world and making us a better person in whatever situations we might be. So yeah, those are the 2 invitations for today. Remember, your thoughts don't define you. And I hope you enjoyed the series. Please, 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 please do share it with a friend on your social media, or just a word of mouth. That's the best advertising ever. It does help me loads, and I hope that you will be there next year. I'm also going to do an additional episode probably in the next few weeks as a sort of bonus episode before the end of the year, but I'll probably not be doing another season before January. And that's also for the benefit of you, not to have to tune in every now and then while you're doing your Christmas shopping and preparing for your sort of quiet time with family. So I wish you all the best. Have a wonderful week. Stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.